Welcome to Inspiration and Transformation from the Banks of the Ganga with Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, an American sannyasi living at the Parmarth Niketan Ashram in Rishikesh, India. Sadhvi is president of the Divine Shakti Foundation, a charitable organization bringing education, vocational training, upliftment, and empowerment programs to women and children. Sadhvi is also Secretary General of the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and Director of the world-famous International Yoga Festival. Join the musings of an American sannyasi as Sadhvi shares the wisdom and teachings of her guru, His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswatiji.
Welcome, everyone, to Inspiration and Transformation from the holy banks of the sacred Ganga River in the land of Rishikesh, India. Why is forgiveness hard? Forgiveness is hard because we wrap our egos and our identities around the story of that which has happened to us. We start to identify as the one who was injured, the one who was abused, the one who was betrayed, the one who was lied to or cheated on. And we develop a whole identity around that. And based on that identity, we live our lives. And so if I'm going to let go, if I'm going to forgive, it means I have to be prepared to let go of the identity that I've created as the one who was hurt. And that's why it's so difficult. It's not just about forgiving that person. It's not just about letting go of the one mistake or ignorance that somebody made. It's actually about letting go of a whole way of knowing ourselves. So, for example, if I was betrayed, and based on that betrayal, I don't trust. Based on not trusting, I don't have close friends. I don't actually connect with anyone. I don't actually open my heart. I move through the world with a closed heart. Well, I've got this perfect excuse to not trust. I was betrayed. But if I really forgive the betrayal, then I'm stuck with the question of why I don't trust. And so it's a lot easier to hold on to what someone has done to us. The other reason that we don't forgive is because we've got this attachment that somehow the person who hurt us is going to be the one who's going to come and make it right. So you harmed me, you abused me, you lied to me, you cheated on me. I'm hurt. Now I need you to be the one to come back and to say you're sorry. I need you to be the one to heal me. And the dilemma is it's very unusual that the same person who hurt you is going to be the person who heals you. It's not that it never happens, it does sometimes. I mean, we all make mistakes. We've all hurt someone we love, recognized our mistake, come back, apologized, made amends. But in general, the type of person who's going to create the level of injury and pain in you that lasts you months, years, it's unlikely, unless that person has had a profound transformation or is undergoing very deep therapy or spiritual work, that they're actually going to come around and really be the ones who are able to heal. Because remember, whatever they did in the first place that hurt us wasn't something they did on purpose. It wasn't that they woke up in the morning and said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to ruin this person's day. Or I'm going to ruin their month. Or I'm going to ruin their life. People are just doing the best that they can with the toolboxes that they have. And since so many people's toolboxes are tragically empty, you know, it's like the situation requires love and patience and selflessness, generosity. But I don't have those things in my toolbox. What I've got are anger, greed, longing, fear, confusion. And so I act out of those and I hurt others. Unless we do special work to give ourselves the tools that we need in our toolbox, we're going to keep hurting people as we move through our lives. And so the idea that the person who hurt you is going to be the person who comes back and heals you, very unlikely. But that's what so many of us hold on to. It's why we don't forgive. Because we're waiting for that person to come back. And this is where it's so critical to say to ourselves, whatever someone has done to you, you deserve to be free. We don't forgive because what someone did was okay. We forgive because we deserve to be free. And so we let go. We allow ourselves to let go of that identification with the one who was harmed, which means, of course, that we've got to let go of all of the ways that that identification is serving us. So I'm not having to trust or love or step up to the plate of my life or take risks or open my heart because, see, I've been hurt. I don't have to really embrace, accept that full, beautiful invitation the universe has given me because, see, I've been hurt. I don't trust, and here's why. I don't take risks, here's why. I don't open my heart, here's why. I don't believe in myself, here's why. I don't believe others, here's why. And so it becomes actually very useful to us, but similarly, it actually steals our life. It's useful only on the absolute most detrimental, superficial level. It enables us to keep hurting ourselves. But this is where forgiveness requires faith, because we're literally trust diving into the universe to saying, okay, yeah, I don't know what's on the other side of not trusting. I don't know what's on the other side of this hurt, of this pain, of this wound, of this fear, of this anger. But I'm gonna drop into it anyway. Because I trust the ones into whose arms I'm dropping. I trust the divine. And we allow ourselves to let go into that momentary void. If I let go of my anger, who am I? If I let go of my stories, who am I? If I let go of what happened, who am I? We don't know until we do it. But it's through that door that we actually experience who we are. Because who we are not is anger, pain, fear, risk aversion. But if that's how we've identified, then we're about to see a whole new aspect of ourselves. So we let go of the identification, and we let go, and this is the part that also really hurts, of the idea that this person is going to come back and fix it. And especially if it's a loved one. Especially if it's someone we really loved and trusted, there is this sense. Why don't they care? Why don't they come back? Don't they know I'm hurting? And real deep forgiveness and letting go is forgiving the fact that they're not coming back. Forgiving the fact that they're not able to recognize how much they hurt you. Forgiving the fact that they don't have the capacity to be what you need them to be right now. But the good news is you have the capacity. And in your connection with yourself, turns out you don't need that person to make amends, to say they're sorry, to make it better, to tell you they loved you, that they don't mean it. You actually have that within yourself. And it just takes trust. So that's why it's hard. But it's also the only way. It's the only way to actually know who we are. Because otherwise I just identify as this whole story. The one who's angry. The one who's been hurt. The one who's been betrayed. The one who doesn't trust. So let go. Let go of it. I promise you're not going to plummet to your death. Your death. You will plummet to your depth, but not to your death inside you. But that's what so many of us fear, is if I let go of this, I'm literally just going to plummet to my death inside. And it reminds me of that beautiful parable I love of the man who's holding on to this rope for dear life. The same way that so many of us hold on to these stories and identities, dramas. And suddenly this beautiful angel voice comes in his mind and says, let go of the rope. And he's like, let go? I can't let go. I'll plummet to my death. And the angel says, well, then just let go with one hand. He says, I can't let go with one hand. My other hand will... So she says, fine, one finger. So her voice is so sweet that he lets go with one finger. And then she slowly convinces him, another finger, another finger, another finger, another finger. Until slowly there's only one finger left. And then she says, let go. He says, now I really can't. No way. Now there's only one finger left holding me up. I cannot let go. Now I'll really plummet to my death. But she convinces him, just let go. And so he does. And he doesn't plummet anywhere. In fact, he doesn't go anywhere. And he's shocked, and he looks down and he realizes he's actually been standing on solid ground the entire time. And I love that parable because So many of us, like him, hold on with these death grips on aspects of our lives, aspects of our identities, of our stories, of our dramas. And we really think that if we let go of them, maybe not plummet to our death externally like off a mountain, but internally, into that void of, oh my God, who am I? But we don't. The moment we let go of that which is not self, we actually discover we've been held up by the true self this whole time. We just didn't know it because we had this death grip on not self. So let go. Let go and forgive. You'll see, you can always pick the grudge back up again. Right? There's no forgiveness police that's going to say, wait, you let that go, no fair. You can always pick it up again. If you don't like how it's going for you, you can say, fine, I'll give it till Monday. If I don't feel better by then, Tuesday I'm going to be angry again. But at least give it a try. See what happens if you let go.
You're listening to OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Hi, this is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Every 2 minutes, another American is sexually assaulted. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, you are not alone. Help is just a call or click away through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. Please call 1-800-656-HOPE, that's HOPE, or visit rain.org, that's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Welcome back to Inspiration and Transformation. I'm so glad to have you all back here with me. How do we know that we're meant to stay here forever? I'm going to make it a little bit more general. The answer is the same, of course, but the context is wider. It has to do with decisions in our life. I mean, how do we make any decision? And especially really big life decisions. There's always more than one voice in our heads. We've got different voices telling us different things. The key question to ask ourselves always is, for me, for my highest, deepest growth, unfolding, truth, awareness, what's the right path? And here's the thing. Life is about package deals. It's not a buffet. You know, a lot of us would like to think that we could literally walk through life with a plate like you were on one of those huge, beautiful buffets, you know, at like weddings or cruises or, this just goes on and on and on and on, buffets where you get to decide, I'd like some of this and some of that and a big spoonful of this, extra side of that, lots of this, none of that. And the dilemma is life isn't actually like that. In a buffet, assuming that you're thoroughly prepared to throw everything about diet and nutrition out the window, you literally could put every single thing in the buffet on your plate and in your stomach. Right? There's no rules that say if you take from this, you can't take from this. There's no rules that say either an item from the fruit plate or an item from the dessert. Right? An item from the breads or an item from the rice and quinoa. You could have it all. Fruit, dessert, every grain there is, every vegetable. But in life, it's not like that. In life, you cannot simultaneously have the freedom and unencumberedness of not being married and not having children, and at the same time be surrounded by a spouse and your children in your life. You can't have both. You can't simultaneously not have them and have them. It doesn't mean that within beautiful relationships you can't develop wonderful free ways of living together, growing together. Of course you can. And that's what the best relationships are. But nonetheless, a spouse, children, carry with them a responsibility that is very different than a life that doesn't have a spouse and children. Neither is right, neither is wrong, neither is better, neither is worse. Both are amazingly wonderful. Both have incredible opportunities. Both have incredible challenges. But you can't do both simultaneously. Maybe you do one in one phase of life, the other in a different phase. But simultaneously, you cannot do both. You cannot simultaneously have a full-time job in a company, a business, a corporation, when you're a CEO or a president, and be a full-time stay-at-home mom. Doesn't mean you can't have a career and children. Of course you can. But you can't do each of them full-time. Something's got to give somewhere. You cannot live in Paris and LA at the same moment. You may have a house in both places if you're of that sort and jet set back and forth, no problem. But you cannot simultaneously live in both places. And so the dilemma when we make choices about our life is too many of us have been really indoctrinated to believe that there should be able to be this buffet. I should be able to have this, but it should come with all the benefits of that. Or I should be able to not have that, but still have the parts I liked about it anyway. Well, it's not how life works. I'll tell you a personal story. It's actually very fitting because today is Narada Jayanti. Now, Naradaji is one of the beautiful, beautiful sages from the scriptures, from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and a beautiful, holy, divine, wandering sage, a Muni. One who observes great silence, one who does great sadhana, one who, as I mentioned in the Ganga Arti, really is this confluence of gyan, wisdom, and bhakti, devotion. He's the one, if you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, he's really the one who guides and teaches so many throughout. Now one day, and of course there's always a backstory, we won't go into, because the way that so many of the stories in the scriptures work is they flow from one into the next, into the next. So we're just going to cut a slice out of this beautiful, sumptuous cake of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's the story of one day, Naradaji is walking through a village, and there's a king. And the king sees him, and of course he's well known, he's famous, he's this enlightened sage. The king sees him and he says, "Oh, Sage Naradaji." He bows at his feet. And he says, "I want you to read my daughter's palm. I want you to tell the future of my daughter." So Naradaji says, "Sure." The king shows Naradaji his daughter. Naradaji holds the daughter's hand. And not only in her hand, but in her face, in her eyes, in her being, he basically falls in love. Now, Naradaji is a celibate, a renunciant. And here he has, he's fallen in love with this princess nonetheless. And he says to the king, "Your daughter will have a very successful, beautiful, long life." And the king, "Thank you." And he mentions to Naradaji that his daughter's swamvar. Now, a swamvar was back in the old days when girls, princesses, got to choose their groom like an auction house, basically. All of the eligible young men would come forward, and the princess would wander through and choose her prince. So Naradaji was very excited to hear this was happening, and immediately he rushes to Lord Vishnu. And he tells Lord Vishnu, "I need you to give me the face," because Naradaji was not the most handsome being on earth. We all have different beautiful qualities we've been given, and he had amazing qualities of wisdom, of devotion, but not quite the looks to snatch a princess, a gorgeous princess nonetheless. So Naradaji says to Vishnu, "I need you to give me the face of Hari." Hari is one of the names of Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu says, "Done. So be it. Tathastu." Now Naradaji's very happy. Very happy. I'm going to win this princess. And he goes to the swamvar, and he stands right in the front row, convinced she's going to definitely choose me because I am by far the most handsome guy around. Not only that, I also happen to be brilliant. I'm actually going to stop this story for a moment and go back to where I learned this story, because it weaves importantly in terms of my life story. So this takes us back to the early 2000s, almost 20 years ago. Now, I've been in India, as some of you know, for the last 25 years. And I officially took vows of sannyas, vows of monastic renunciation, in the year 2000, so 22 years ago. It was not a difficult choice by any means at all. In fact, from when I first came in 96, I knew that was where I was going. And I've shared many times that it was such an incredible blessing, because all of my desire for things that were not in alignment with monastic vows, not in alignment with a life here in Rishikesh in an ashram, long before cyber cafes and coffee shops and whatnot were put in, long before there were, juice bars and Italian restaurants and whatnot. And by God's grace, the desire for those things was just scooped out of me. I always say it was like God had a vacuum cleaner and literally came in and vacuumed it out of me. So taking those vows of celibacy, of simplicity, of letting go of everything ranging from bagels to sex and everything in between, was actually not nearly as difficult as I would have thought it would have been if you had told me a year earlier that I was going to be taking monastic vows. So, now we fast forward a few years after that, and suddenly there is a gentleman, and I find myself having desire. It didn't happen automatically. It began when he said to me, out of the blue, I had not even been thinking about it, but out of the blue he says to me, "I'm very attracted to you." He was a very, very good-looking, early 30-something. I was early 30-something, right around the same age. And suddenly all of that I hadn't even thought of, suddenly it came back. And suddenly there I was, full of this desire. And I finally went to my guru, to Puja Swamiji, because I didn't know what to do with it. I knew I wasn't going to break my vows, but suddenly it was difficult in a way that it never had been difficult. And so I go and I finally bring myself to not quite tell him, but luckily he understood when I told him the name of the person I needed to talk to him about, that I had a serious problem. And he looked at me and he saw my face turning all shades of red and purple and whatnot. First, he was like, "Yeah, what? What's the problem?" And then he looked at me and he goes, "Oh, no." And he then told me this story about Naradaji. Okay, so this story was the story that I got in response to me suddenly having this desire that maybe being a sannyasi was not exactly what I was destined to be. So Naradaji, we're back to Nadaji. He shows up at the swim bar and he's all... And the princess walks right by him. And not only that, she kind of chuckles as she walks by him. And Nadaji's amazed. He can't believe it. So immediately he moves. He goes to the next line. Maybe she just didn't see me. And he goes to the next line, thinking now she'll see me. And again, she walks right by him, kind of chuckling a little again. Now he cannot figure out what has happened. He storms out and he goes to the nearest stream where he looks, because of course they didn't have, full-length mirrors in those days, especially the wandering monastics. So he looks in the river and he sees that he's been given a monkey face. He hadn't realized that the word Hari, while also being one of the names of Bhagwan Vishnu in all of his ravishing beauty, also meant monkey. And so Bhagwan Vishnu, being God, knowing exactly what tricks Nadaji was up to, decided he was not going to let his star precious devotee lose himself in this way, so he gave him a monkey face. So naturally Nadaji is irate. He storms to Lord Vishnu. What did you do? And Lord Vishnu explains to him, you're meant for things more than just marrying a princess. The world needs you in a completely different way. And Nadaji was the one who gave us the Bhakti Sutras, the teachings on devotion, and so much more. So after Puja Swamiji finished telling me the story, he looks at me and he says, "Don't make me give you a monkey face." It's like, you get this together, I'm going to have to give you a monkey face. So I share that because A, it's Nada Jayanti, but B, because when we make decisions, we've really got to make decisions based on, what am I here for? And that doesn't mean that all of us are meant to be monastics. Of course we're not. Doesn't mean all of us are meant to live in an ashram in Rishikesh. Of course we're not. But it means that when we make decisions for our lives, to know it's a package deal. There's always going to be parts that if I could trade, I would. And it's got to be something that is not the pull of the moment, the desire of the moment, the yearning of the moment, but that which is really in line with my heart's, my soul, ultimate calling to know itself. So there isn't any official way, any equation I can give you. Just to say, trust yourself. Trust yourself, you'll know, but never expect that any situation in life is going to be exactly perfect. And don't lose beautiful opportunities because they are not exactly 100% what you had envisioned it would be. Recognize things are package deals. And the question becomes, which package deal is the one that's most likely to give you the things that matter to you? I'm not going to tell you what should matter to you, but you decide what matters to you. and then choose the path that's most likely to give you that.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation. As I always say, the problem with trying to trick the mind into forgetting something or not thinking about something is the mind is listening to you say that. So when you say, I am going to forget about how that rascal stole my money, I am just not going to think about how that rascal stole my money. From this moment, I am forgetting that rascal. Well, what's my mind full of? That rascal who stole my money. So, unfortunately, you can't forget in that way. The real way to do it is to give the mind something different. The first piece is if it was something done to you, a harm to you, that what you're holding is anger, grudges. Well, first you must forgive. Forgiving is the first step, or it's going to keep eating you alive. But then once we have forgiven, and things that maybe don't necessarily need to be forgiven, they haven't been done necessarily to us, but nonetheless, they're destroying the peace of our mind. They're destroying our ability to be in the present because we just keep thinking about it. Can't forget it. Well, this is where we lay new pathways. Thoughts are habits. If you actually watch your thoughts, what you'll find is they're not very creative. Yeah, the mind jumps around, but it tends to jump around to the same places all the time. Most of us have very specific places our mind goes, specific ways our mind goes. And so what you need to do is simply give it a new way of going. Give it something new to do. Because the truth is, you really only can think about one or maximum two things at one time. When we say I'm thinking about 1,000 things, we're not actually thinking about 1,000 things. What it means is we are thinking about lots of different things in very quick succession. But if we say I'm thinking about 1,000 things, it means very quickly my mind is going like this. But at each moment, it's only in one place. So give it somewhere to be. Give it somewhere to be. Chant a mantra. It's the best thing I can think of to do with your mind. Chant a mantra. Chant a prayer. Ask yourself in every minute and every moment, how can I be of service in this moment? In this moment, how can I serve? It may simply be lifting a ladybug or a caterpillar off the road and putting them somewhere safe. I remember sitting on a stage with His Holiness the Dalai Lama at the big preview and blessing ceremony for our Encyclopedia of Hinduism many years ago in Haridwar. And I was sitting just behind him. And he kept bending down. This was during the 2010 Kumbh Mela in Haridwar. So it was this massive event. Hundreds of people on stage, tens of thousands in the audience. And His Holiness keeps bending down. Now, because I was right behind him, I couldn't see what he was doing. But he would bend down, and then his main guy, who was standing just at the foot of the stage, the security right beneath His Holiness, but on the ground, not on the stage, would come to him, thinking, what's going on? And I discovered later that what he was doing was he kept seeing these little caterpillars walking. It's Haridwar, Rishikesh area. It was April. It's the hot season. It's the Kumbh Mela, right? So there's obviously lots of little critters on the ground. And when you've got, 100 people sitting in rows, he was worried somebody was going to step on him. And so he just kept bending down and lifting up little critters and handing them to his security guard to place them safely. There were little potted plants lining the stage, and he would just put them into the potted plant. So you think, here he is sitting on this stage, and what's he thinking about? The little caterpillars walking in front of him. Like, how can I be of service even as I sit on a stage and await my turn to speak? Well, I can save all the little caterpillars. So give your mind something to think about actively rather than what you're trying to forget. Because to try to push something away with the mind doesn't work. The only way to do it is to move forward into a new way of thinking. And like any habit, it takes time. As I said, the mantra is like the best, the easiest, the fastest, the most powerful. If you have a mantra from your guru, or you have the possibility to get a mantra from the guru, it's hundreds, thousands of times more powerful even. But even if not, if you don't have that possibility, choose any mantra. Chant it. Just keep chanting it. Keep chanting it. Keep chanting it. There won't be room for that thing you're trying to forget. And in all of the brief moments between mantra chanting, or as that second thing that the mind can do while it's also chanting, allow yourself to see how you can be of service. Who needs a smile? Who needs a hand? Who needs to be carried to a safe place? And slowly, 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 the hold that that thing has on your mind will dissipate on its own. Suddenly you'll realize, my God, काफी दिनों से मैंने नहीं सोचा उसके बारे में. And you'll be surprised. And then you'll go back to your mantra.
This brings to a close
this hour of inspiration and transformation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad to be together with you all each week, and I look forward to being together again next Thursday, same time, on OMTimes Radio.